It is July 9th. Welcome to another episode of the Power Hour. We're going to start off today with part 2 of part 1 that we did a couple of weeks ago called Protect Your Assets, how to prevent loss of your time and money. Before we do so, I want to give you a warm welcome. I'm glad you're here. Before I hit the record button, I was chit-chatting with Marina and Nancy and Trinita and Danny and Sandra and Linda and Hans and Ramona who were in the house early, which I appreciate. And I just, there's something, man, when I attend an event or show up for it, whether it's live, remember those days, or online, I want it to start on time, you know, and I want it to end on time. So I'm grateful so many of you now actually coming early so we can chat. And Hans just added, so you grew up in East Tennessee, Norris, near Knoxville. How about that? I didn't know that, Hans. That's pretty cool. And I've only been here, it'll be 7 years, I think, in the fall. 7 years in the fall. Yeah, Trinity, yeah, we'll see you at the meeting later. So I want everybody to know that, you know, I don't just teach groups. I don't just inspire you to be successful doing groups. I don't just talk the talk. I walk the walk. You know that, well, first of all, you know my history in the travel business, working on the supplier side, the consortia side, the agency side, and I did the partial ship charter on Christina in April 2017, and Mike Marshev and I have been planning our mastermind group called Mastermind Owners Meeting for Entrepreneurs, and it was originally scheduled for March at Moon Palace, Jamaica. Well, we couldn't do it in March, as you can well imagine, and it was rescheduled for August of this year, and we're at the 30-day mark, well, 31 days, and you know, when it comes to a mastermind, it's not that we're just the trainers and teachers and we make all the choices. Everyone is equal footing. Sure, we're the producers of it, we're the facilitators, but you know, we've been very much in touch with Ramona and Trinita and other group bootcamp members actually who are participating in Mastermind. So this is the reason why I bring this up is because it's a group event, and that we've just decided as of super early this morning that we need to postpone it. And I know that's not good news for all of you, having nothing to do with our mastermind event, because here's yet another example of a group that was planned, especially for travel advisors, that we've had to postpone. And we've chosen not to pick new dates because there's so many things going on. And at the end of the day, friends, a mastermind needs to have a certain amount of people, but not too many. And it's all about the interaction, the engagement. People who don't know each other, in this case, for the most part, coming together to get to know each other, to help each other, to inspire each other, solutions to your problems, and you know, it's very much a social event too. Can I say the same about your groups, the groups that you've had cancel or postpone? Could I say the same about the very premise of doing group travel? People want to be together and engage and sit in the pool and chit chat, and sit by at the swim up bar and have a cocktail, and attend meetings, whether it's a business group you've been working on or aspire to do. It's about being together. And we realize that in as much as that is the goal of the mastermind, of course, the net goal is to grow, is to have results, to have a business transformation. That social element, along with so many other uncertainties and fears and anxieties about what it's like leaving if you're in a hotspot, arriving in Jamaica, leaving Jamaica. You know, it's funny to say, oh, wow, it would be terrible to get stuck at Jamaica for 2 weeks in quarantine. You know, it sounds wonderful, but, you know, it's at your expense. That wouldn't be, that might not be fun, especially if you've got family and business. And especially Mike and I, The last thing we want is to have it on our heads, our shoulders, and our hearts that somebody got sick. And the mastermind is secondary to our health, right? So it's been postponed. And I'm just saying that so you understand from a group leader's perspective how difficult the choice is. And of course, we're the ones who are making a couple of bucks on this, and it's been postponed. And we've given all of our signups, our attendees, our members the option. You want your money back? Go ahead. If not, we'll hold it and reschedule when it's prudent to be rescheduled. So I share this with you because you're in the group game and you may have already experienced this. So if you have any questions, probing questions about what went through our decision process, and frankly, if you want to see the 15-minute message that Mike and I recorded this morning, I'll send you the link. It's not easy sharing disappointing news. And thus far, the reaction has been nothing but gracious. We understand. And some were like, let's go, right, Janita? Let's go, remote. Let's go. We want to go. We got to get on that plane. We got to be at the resort. We got to show the world we want to travel. I understand that. And there's the segment, of course, they were like, I have fears, trepidations, anxieties about going. And Danny, you sent in your questions, and we're going to tackle that. So Danny has questions about how would you deal with trying to build a group for 2021 in today's climate? When working with leads or existing customers and they're concerned about COVID, what do you do? So those are questions we're going to get to after the slides. And then we have, but I have to read this to you. And by the way, if you have any comments or questions as we go along, type them in. Before I start the slides, part 2, I will address your thoughts, comments, questions, suggestions, even your salutations and greetings, because I'm glad you're here. But Karen, who's also part of the mastermind group, I hope you don't mind that I read this. It's important that we recognize and celebrate the successes, the wins. No, she didn't land a group. No, but she did land a speaking engagement. And now some of you are shivering like, not too good at the speaking thing, makes me nervous. Well, Karen's not a professional speaker. And some of you, like Nancy, some of you, Hans, are comfortable standing up before a group. Some of you are not. But I just want to celebrate success and inspire you all that if it's your discomfort zone, don't step outside your comfort zone, step inside a new one, because you got information in here and here that people want to hear. It's about finding the right audience and giving them the information that they want, that they desire, that they need to hear, which is what I try to do in our hour together. From Karen at South Lake Travel. I have my first speaking engagement for the fall. I'm so excited. It's for a women's club. And she quoted the person who hired or commissioned her to come in and speak, said this, quote, "This is important. As you can imagine, we're all fantasizing about taking a wonderful vacation and getting away." So Danny, did you hear the words from a client who is expressing in her head and her heart that we're fantasizing, we can't wait, right? That pent up demand, although now's not the time. So come in and talk to us about it anyway. She goes on to say, I've always done a presentation called Luxury Travel. Karen, I hope it's okay that I share this. Luxury Travel, what's new, what's hot? A beautiful title. What a beautiful title, because it's intriguing. I want to know what's new. I want to know what's hot. Clearly, Karen, you must be the expert. This is consumer thinking. And she says Karen says she needs to tweak it and sprinkle in what the new normal looks like, and without scaring them. And she says, I think we as travel agents have such an opportunity here to get out in front of various groups this fall and be the travel expert in caps of what the rules, regulations, and protocols will look like in the future. Now, the thing is, Karen, and all of you, if you're going to be doing a talk in the fall, if you write it today, it's going to change by the time the fall comes. Who knows? Let's just pray. that we have a good, positive trajectory starting, and we can have good news stories and address the protocols. And address, and Danny, this is going to go to answer your question, which is address people's fears, trepidations, anxieties, concerns, because you can't assume everyone's got the same fears, trepidations, anxieties, concerns. And she just needs to come up with a new, cute, sexy name for the presentation. Although I like the name of the presentation. I like it. You could certainly add to it, and you know, and say that you will address the prevailing not challenges, but the prevailing safety measures, whatever. We don't want to scare people, but we need to be honest and open. So I just want to share that good news as we celebrate success. Okay, let me check the boards here, and then we're going to dive into the slides. Karen said she just erased Mastermind, which was going to be starting August 10, off the calendar. She's very sad. I am too. Believe me, Karen, I am too. And I appreciate your tenacity and your grit to stick with us, because it's going to happen. We just don't know when. Nancy D says, I get it, Stuart. My second Women Walking and Wine to Catalonia. So this is her second trip called Women Walking and Wine to Catalonia in September is canceled. Good news is the airline canceled, so we all get refunds. And Allianz will refund the policies after I send proof it was COVID related. So we may end up walking to a local winery. There you go. I mean, can you make lemonade out of lemons? Can you be positive? I believe you can. Of course, people are going to be disappointed. I really think in this environment, people will understand. Karen said, I had to postpone my group to London from my Downton Abbey group. Karen, you've been working on that for years, right? For August, it was really hard to make that call and cancel it. I get it. And then Karen said, this virus, though, shows the huge liability for group planners about how to protect ourselves. You guys. What if the tour operator cruise line refused to give back the deposit or final payment? There's no doubt these are challenging times financially, too, for them. And I do hope that they've been accommodating. And Karen said she loves public speaking, actually. So that's a good place to be if you're already comfortable there. And she said it was okay that I shared that with you. And that she hopes that all of you will also consider doing speaking engagements too. Linda said, as a webinar title, Linda M., what does travel look like right now? Yeah, that would be a great webinar. And you know what? That webinar would be would provide value, would be relevant right now, not be relevant tomorrow, because the information could change, you know. But I tell you, Linda, you could do it. What? Absolutely do it. I know Bob, who's in our mastermind group, he has a newsletter that doesn't come out daily, but he does recap what's going on, and you know, puts a footnote saying this. By the time you read this, it may have changed. How many of you are doing a newsletter, a blog, a little video update, posting and sharing information that you think your followers need to hear? So you position yourself as the expert, as an influencer. And Karen said, I've yet to find an insurance company plan that covers us as meeting planners. It keeps me up at night. I hear you. And that's a discussion we can have. I can certainly talk to Isaac, my friend at Travel Insured, which we have before, about solutions. Okay, so let's dive in right now to the slides, and let me open up the screen here, start the slideshow, and share this. And would somebody, I know it's silly for me to say that because you're all listening to me. Just confirm that you can see the slide okay. Can you see the slide? I just want to be sure. This is part 2. To what we did, I think it was June 22 or June 23, about protect your assets. There was too much information for me to deliver in one power hour, because I promise you that these power hours, thank you. So the answer is yes, you can see it. These power hours are for open Ask Anything Q&A. Share stories, share successes, share failures, ask me questions. It's as close to doing a one-on-one coaching session as we can possibly get. Hey, Cheryl's in the house. Welcome, Cheryl. I'm glad you're here. You can see the slide. Terrific. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick recap of what we did a couple of weeks ago and then continue on. Now, for some of you newer boot campers in the house, and some of you veterans who've been in since 2015, since the beginning, you may have heard this stuff before. Is it okay that I remind you? You know, there's some stuff you forgot. There's some stuff maybe I didn't include before. This is new stuff that I'm adding into Group Sales Boot Camp. I'm going to put the two together so it's one bigger module. You know, my pledge is, and you can say these same words, Karen and Nancy and all of you who make presentations, Linda, that, hey, all of you in my audience today have different levels of interest and education and research into travel, luxury travel, whatever it is. So my goal is to fulfill three things. Number one, validate stuff you already know or you're already doing. Number two, you know what I'm saying, right, Hans? You've heard this before. Danny, you've heard this before. Number two, remind you stuff maybe you forgot. And number three, teach you all new stuff that maybe you didn't know. Share stuff you didn't know, you know, and that's what makes it really exciting. So a quick review. Number one, comprehend the supplier contract. I'm not going to go into these details, friends, but if you have any comments about these going forward, go ahead, type it in and ask. Number two, clarify terms of rate protection, right? That's an issue. Prices go down or they go up, right? You're going to protect them. And number three, lock down your marketing costs because that can get out of control. And I don't want you spending money on marketing. There's so many ways to spend little or next to nothing using social marketing, social media, and you want that group organization to have skin in the game, to say absolutely you can use our Facebook, absolutely you can use our Twitter, absolutely you can get access to our list. We're not going to give you the database, just send us what you want and we'll send it out, stuff like that. Create that P&L spreadsheet. I want to know in the 2-week period, has anybody gone in and looked at the spreadsheet template that I provide in boot camp? Is anybody convinced now you have to use it? If you're not busy booking new stuff, which I hope you are, but is now the time to familiarize yourself with Excel and create, whether it's QuickBooks, Excel, or your accountant. Have you done anything different in these 2 weeks since you heard the first 10? And net down everything. Has anybody out there had an opportunity to price it out and create a package? And I suggest you net down everything and mark it up. And then create your own markup, your own margin. You're entitled to make some money more than just the commission they want to pay you, especially if it's a package. You got to factor in the variables. Factor in the variables that could it put you over the top to earn extra bennies, or could cut some of the bennies you're going to earn from the tour operator, cruise line, hotel in terms of TCs or freebies and cancellations, this kind of stuff. You have to factor in variables using a spreadsheet. That overpayment solution is a tough one. Any questions, any ideas on that? We've talked about it a lot and we'll continue to, because there's no one great solution. It varies by agent and agency, what resources you have. Minimize the number of payments, of course, and be crystal clear on inclusions. So those are your top 10. And before we go on to the next, I'm going to launch this poll. Here we go, launching a poll, because we're going to address these. Take a look at the poll. After you receive final commission from the supplier and reconcile against your manifest, have you ever found errors and were due money? Take a moment, answer this question, because I am curious. And remember, I told you I worked on the supplier side, several suppliers, Costa, Princess, Insight, Celebrity, and I was also on the other side. I'd say 3 sides of the fence. So I knew this was an important question, because I want you to see that if you don't reconcile, you're leaving money on the table, right? All right, so here we go. I'm going to close the poll and share the results. Check it out. 54, over half of you have found errors when you're reconciling after you've received commission. and you were due money, over half. And 38% say no. You've never found that. Good for you. But it's a good thing you reconcile. And then 8%, now I'm not looking to see who did, who didn't, but 8% don't reconcile and you trust their numbers. So my friends, for you dear 8%, may this be an inspiration, a kick, a bump to remind you how essentially important it is, because in this group, over half have found they were owed money, that somehow the supplier goofed and you had to go back and say, wait a minute, I'm due a couple of bucks here. So there you go. I hope that was inspiring. Linda said Excel is so important. It is. Sandra said absolutely. This time has been amazing for business organizational growth. I couldn't agree with you more that it's a great time to learn how to use Excel or other things that have been on your list of stuff that I really need to do but have been procrastinating on. Number 11, be crystal clear on fees. Not just your fees, but supplier fees. Now, I used to call this penalties. Be crystal clear on penalties. The problem is the word penalties is not an attractive word. You know what I mean? It just already has negative connotations. However, it's true. And in some of your contracts or supplier contracts, it says penalties. So what's the purpose of being crystal clear? Because in the prior top 10, we talked about be crystal clear on inclusions and exclusions, and don't make any assumptions. You don't want any ambiguity. You want any arguments. He should see, oh, I didn't know, you know, the old he said, she said kind of a thing. And it's better that you are full disclosure constantly and consistently, because it will discourage and protect you against changes. Now, of course, if people have to make a change, they're going to make a change. But if they're on the fence, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I, maybe they won't. But at least they know. Cancellations. Look, if somebody's got to cancel, it may not discourage them from canceling if they have to, but at least they know the fees, the penalties, the consequences. That's a word between you and I. And late payments too. Boy, I could do a poll right now and ask all of you, how many times have you had to chase down clients to get money, to get deposits or balances, and they get busy and this happens and that happens. But you know what? I'll tell you something. If I don't pay my MLGW bill on time, or my, what other bill? My, up at my lake house, I forgot what the Bolivar Energy Authority, whatever. On my bill, it already says, it already assumes I'm going to be late, and I never am. What's due if I'm late? They just make that assumption, and I think you need to also, because I think it'll scare people straight. I better get it on time because I don't want to pay $5 more. So, success tips: list and or link to the supplier's fee schedule. Wait, I'm going to shut my camera off here. Hold on. List and or link to the supplier's fee schedule, because more than likely the clients are also subject to their fees, not just yours, if you're going to put your own fees on it, which I think you should. Create a fee calendar and list the consequences. Indeed, you should have one piece of paper, one document that's online, that's on every manifest, right? And every invoice or anything that's distributed to a consumer. So they can't say they missed it. Well, they can, but you have done your part in putting this information easily accessible and fully disclosed. Don't say it's on request or it's on page 26. No, make it a standalone document so they can see the supplier's terms and conditions and yours with the fee schedule of consequences. Number 12, do not escort for free. I was about to poll the group and ask if you escort, and do you do it for free or do you get paid to do it? Friends, when you accompany a group, when you lead that group, you're providing a valuable service And the valuable service is making sure that the group leader, that they have fun and they don't have the stress and the monkeys on their back. Because you know, as well as I know, if something can go wrong, it will. And it could be something least expected. How many times have you received a call from a group that's traveling and you either chose not to go, or you didn't think it was, or they didn't want you to go, or you didn't think, hey, it's not a complicated group, it's okay. And then you find out that the dining room wasn't set for them, or the excursion was not private, or what, it could be a million things. Now, well, that's not easy to digest because you feel bad and you assumed the supplier would deliver to perfection, but there's always issues, instances. And for you being there is a very high value. And by doing it free, I believe you're kind of being taken advantage of. They may say, well, I'm not going to pay your way. And remember what I told you to say, well, I'm going to bake my cost in. And the success tips, again, which I just mentioned, to bake yourself into the package, because it's unlikely, unless it's an incentive or corporate group, that they're going to pay you a separate fee. So you want to build yourself in, not only your hard travel costs, but also how much it costs for your time and efforts to be there, so you can stay a step ahead and behind the scenes to make sure things happen to perfection and nobody there has to worry about it, because you're there to take on the duties, the burdens, the tasks. And of course, you want to escort when it has a complex agenda or it's a large group. Just because it's a group of 12, don't make the assumption you're not needed and that it's not complex, right? I mean, our mastermind group is I don't want to say it's complex, but we have lots of meetings. We have lots of note-taking. We have so many things going on that Mike and I agreed we need somebody to come down and be our wingman. And it turned out to be my son, Zachary. So he could be our wingman. So while we're up there teaching, training, discussing and engaging with the people, with the agents, that the behind the scenes is getting done. Everything is preset. And that's your role. That would be your role as well. And of course, you want to cover your travel costs. That's why you never want to be free to give away those TCs, because that might be yours, but they don't need to know. It's none of their business. And if you don't put a high value to your presence there, to the work you'll do there, and you can tell them step by step what you're going to do every day, they will not. Number 13, naturally maximize travel insurance sales. Of course, this will give peace of mind protection to clients, and peace of mind protection for you too. Because if they don't have the insurance and they call you, oh no, this came up, I didn't take insurance, I didn't think it was important enough, can you help? No, you had the opportunity, you opted out. And of course, you're going to earn additional profits, but most importantly, it's peace of mind for them and for you. But you got to sell it legally. Of course, you cannot say included. And you got to watch that CFAR deadline. I will tell you, I'm the first to admit that for my partial ship river cruise on the Amber Christina, I didn't put the insurance opportunity out there till after 2 weeks, which means CFAR was no longer available. And I was disappointed that I missed that. But now you don't, because in case you didn't know, or you may have the opportunity to forget like I did, you'll make sure it's front and center, and it's part of the very original offering. And of course, leverage their resources. You don't have to be an travel insurance expert per se. Let them do that. There's too much liabilities, too much information to know and learn. So clearly, invite them on a call or webinar, a conversation, or any of their sales materials to use. Number 14, don't sell individually. Now, for those of you new in Group Sales Bootcamp, you may or may have not seen my group launch sequence module. That's the answer to this. You're like, well, don't sell individually. How do we do it? Well, friends, if it's a group, you got to sell to them as a group, because it helps you to be more efficient. It will avoid you getting crushed doing one-on-one sales. You You can't operate like that, friends. You can't do one-on-one sales. It's got to be organized. You need to take control, and it will absolutely help you to sell more, sell up, and sell out. Group launch sequence works. And there are those of you right now on this training call that have not used it and used it and can be very specific with the difference in results that you get. So it's group launch sequence. And you may know that I did update that module already, and it is in Bootcamp for you to go back and watch. I've loaded it up with more important content. Naturally, don't service individually either. Well, Stuart, how do you do that? Well, what if I get a phone call from somebody? Yeah, right. What if you get that same question from 22 different people? You've got to answer every call, answer every email. That doesn't seem very efficient to me. So I want you to avoid drowning in repetitive phone calls and callbacks, especially these days when it's so hard to get people on the phone. People are busy leaving messages back and forth, back and forth. I don't want you to be crushed by repetitive emails, and I'd rather be exceptionally efficient and deliver better service, because even though you're taking control and you're telling them where, when, and how to ask their questions, they will love you for it. They will appreciate what you're doing, because you're going to train them to know where, when, how, and why to ask their questions, and how to get answers even faster. Because you're going to have regularly scheduled group chats, just like I do with you. You're going to encourage them to post their questions in the private Facebook group that you've constructed for them if the group doesn't already have it. It's always a good idea to have a specific Facebook group for that specific group, so the focus is specifically on that group versus their general Facebook page, let's say. And train them. When you get those emails saying, boy, that's a great question, and such asked that last week, and the answer is posted right here and link right there. So you drive them, you train them to go to where all the Q&A is. And if it's a new question, say, oh, that's a great question. I'm going to answer it here, and I'm going to post the answer in the public Q&A. So this is great. Everyone else really wants to see the question, I bet, the question you've asked and the answer I'm going to furnish. And it helps you anticipate. So it's a living document. So as more and more questions come in and more answers are provided, people know that Q&A list gets longer and longer and longer. They should keep checking it to see what the newest questions have been, because maybe they hadn't thought of asking that question. And believe me, they're going to love you for it. And of course, anticipate. Know what the questions are beforehand. Look, you've all been in the business long enough. You know in your heart of hearts what they're going to ask. So why not anticipate? It's like back in the day where we used to go to a restaurant. The best restaurants, the best ones, anticipate your needs. They know when you're going to ask for something, what you're going to need. Oh man, this guy drinks a lot of water. We got to keep filling him up. Whatever it is, it's about anticipation. We just had an amazing, yes, with social distancing, as hard as that was, family reunion here in Memphis. And we did it safely, of course, but we spent weeks and weeks and weeks, Kimberly and I, my wife and I, anticipating what would everybody need, so they don't have to go running out to the store, so that we make everybody happy. We have a most joyous, healthy, happy, safe, memorable event. Anticipate. Number 16, I say this all the time. You got to use forms to capture information. And I try to give you in Bootcamp links to my forms. And if you don't see them there in Bootcamp or in our Facebook group, just shoot me an email. I'll send it to you manually. I want you to see the forms I've created that I use to capture and collect data in a single source. And of course, the best part is, friends, when somebody fills out your form, you get a copy. It goes into the database, and they get a copy too. This is really critical, because if somebody types information in wrong and they don't get a copy of what they just entered, they may forget, not know it, and it may be too late. But if they get a copy, and on that copy it says, please review what you've just entered, and please, it's your responsibility to correct the information and review it to it's perfect and update it if it changes, like error schedules. Yeah, you won't have to deal with those last minute, oops, I made a mistake, I didn't know it, I spelled my name wrong, and now it's going to be wrong in the manifest. What a disaster. I'm going to put an end to the fax, put an end to the cut and paste, put an end to the wasted phone calls, and an end to making errors. And you can use these forms for surveys. Ask a quick question and give people the opportunity to opt in or opt out, especially if you're in Group Loan Sequence Friends and you're in that whisper campaign. Remember that whisper campaign, which is sort of the shot across the bow, and then you follow up with a survey saying, hey, listen, I'm thinking of putting a river cruise together next year on the Danube. And you don't even have to say that if you don't want. The more ambiguous, the better, actually, because you don't want anybody saying, nah, I want to go on the Rhine, not the Danube, right? So you don't want to eliminate people from the funnel that quickly. But hey, I'm curious to see what are the big unknowns about river cruising? Is it the ship? Is it destinations? Is it how it works? That's what I did. And you can see that too if you want. You can capture special needs, medical issues, get electronic signatures, and even capture payments if you're using a secure site, a secure form. And here's just a couple that I make available to you. That's our mastermind one on the right, and our River Cruise special information form. I want you to rip me off, copy it, use it, because it's going to ask some of the key questions that you're going to want to know if they're going to be on that ship, in that hotel, traveling on that tour. That would be helpful if you're the group leader to know, and you're attending, you're the escorting, or whoever is in charge on site, and potentially even give this list to the supplier so that they know whoever is attending or escorting. Maybe there is a professional group leader. They know. Very important that you go prepared. Number 17, compare manifests. Now, this is not the reconcile process that we talked about before. Compare manifests. I would hope that if you're already doing the reconciling, the final comparisons after you get your commission, you're also comparing manifests regularly, because you've got to true yours up to the suppliers to protect against changes, cancellations, errors, surprises. This could be another poll. How many times have you received a manifest to find that somebody added into the group, made a change, or canceled? I bet you each and every one of you have experienced this. Unfortunately, the supplier will sometimes do the redirect back to you, the agent of record, and sometimes they won't. And sometimes the consumer, I don't think enough to call you to let you know. So success tips, I would suggest you do it weekly, friends, every single week, and see if that supplier will send it to you automatically, like auto send. Will they send it automatically, and you do your true up to do the comparison? I had to put this one in here. Never say, I'll try. It's nice, it's beautiful. You want to hear people tell you, I'll try. Unfortunately, I'll try means it may not happen. And, but what if I really, really, really want it? Well, if I hear I'll try, I might hear that you'll do it. I might hear it differently. And it could create an argument, an ill will, if you say I'll try. And it's going to be a toughie right off the bat. It's not a guarantee. You don't want to end up making a costly commitment to something you can't deliver because your supplier or somebody else can't deliver. So it's not even your fault. So it's important to be straight up and honest. Make it a firm yes or no. You always want to confirm the conversation in writing too. Even when they ask the question, you've asked me this. I told you I will investigate and follow up with an answer if it's a yes or a no. right? And also, friends, here's an opportunity for you to leverage it. Because let's say you're pretty sure you can do something, you can fulfill a special request. Maybe you're not very sure, but even if you know you probably can swing it, it's okay to leverage it. You can position yourself as the hero, and you can say, hey, listen, if I can make that happen, and I can't, I'm not guaranteeing it, because I want to give you a firm yes or a firm no. But would that make you really happy if I can make that happen? I know that's taking a chance, but if you're feeling really confident, it's okay to do that if you want, and then call them with the great news. But be careful how you set yourself up. Protect yourself. And here we go. Here's that reconcile thing. And if you're unsure what reconciling means, it's just the word. I don't even know. Is it still the word that you use? Is it still a word that the suppliers use? Maybe it's a different word. I don't know. But this is the word I used when I worked at Celebrity. Reconciliation is an accounting process that uses two sets of records to ensure figures are correct and in agreement. Right? We talked about this. Your purpose clearly is to compare your accounting versus supplier. It will protect you against errors, protect you against surprises. And again, restating the poll, 54% of the responses came in saying that you do reconcile and have found errors in your favor. So you want to do it immediately. You don't want too much time to pass. You don't want to end up forgetting about it. And if too much time passes, who knows where it's moved from one desk to another on the supplier side. So catch it early. Check the torque conductors, the commissions, the amenity points. Watch for client open balances. That's another question I could have asked you. Have you ever received a manifest or a final manifest after commission was paid that there's an open balance somebody had that you ended up paying for? It came out of your commission. I bet you somebody out there has had that happen. You want to avoid that by reconciling diligently. And if you're not good at it, I'm not, use an accountant. And finally, number 20, pay incentives after. Now, my boot campers who've been here for a couple of years have probably heard me say this before. If you're newer here, maybe you never heard me say this before. But this is really important. Even though your group leader is going to insist, I want the $20 per head now. We want this now. I want my freebie now. Whatever. I hate to use that word, but ensures against close-in, high-impact changes. What if there were cancellations that you were or were not made aware of? I mean, you could be aware of it, and all of a sudden you could see your TC disappearing, the amenity points, the bonuses, disappear, your commissions, and all of a sudden you can't do it because sometimes, friends, there are close-in cancellations or changes. And if you've already paid the incentive, remember, an incentive is a reward. I'm going to give you this for doing this. I'm going to give you this if we achieve this. But you can't do it. I'm telling you, friends, you can't do it until the ship sails, until they're at the hotel, until they're at the resort or on that motor coach. So do it immediately when out of the danger zone. And be clear in the agreement letter. Remember that group agreement letter? Be clear of when an incentive will be paid out. You don't want to get stuck because good luck trying to get money back. Good luck trying to get something back when you've already paid it out. It's very difficult. But that concludes part 2 of Protect Your Assets, How to Prevent Loss of Your Time and Money. And now we're going to shut the slide off and turn the camera back on. And I'm going to address, let me look at the boards here, so if you've had any comments or questions, and I want to address Danny's 2 questions as well. Thanks for sticking with me during the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Sandra said, I'd like to know their system for tracking. So when you say system for tracking, I know you may have asked that question 20 minutes ago. Is that the supplier? What system for tracking? If you can elaborate, I'm happy to see if I can answer and help you. But Kay posted, hey Kay, I learned with a large group, my contract was not clear on fees and the leader took advantage of that. I'm going to read it again, friends, because we're all here. We've all experienced this kind of stuff. I want to read it again so you don't feel you're alone. And you could connect with Kay to see what she learned from it and how she proceeds today to avoid that, to eliminate risk. I learned with a large group my contract was not clear on fees and the leader took advantage. Sadly, it happens. Thank you for sharing that, Kay. Kay, being bold and courageous. It's happened to all of us. I've had the same issues with my business too. Trinity said the only group I did not escort was a total disaster. Thank you, Trinita, for also being courageous and sharing how important it is that you're there to make sure things go right, because things will go wrong if you're not. And then that group leader may say, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of it. No, you're not a professional. You don't know. I need to be there. You want me there so that you have a good time, so that nothing goes wrong, so that when you walk into a room, it's set, so that everything is to your needs. This is a one-time event for your family, for your organization, and you need me there. Trust me, you need me there. Thank you, Janita, for sharing that, and I'm sorry that you experienced that. Nancy said, yes, I use forms for clients to get on the short list, gathering excitement, the true group launch sequence way. There you go. Forms for clients to get on the short list. There you go. Who wants to, sign up now if there's limited space, and as we reveal the details, tell me if you want to be the first to know, no obligation kind of thing. The form is perfect. All right. Kay said, I've really had to check the future cruise credits. They do make errors. Now rechecking my commissions. There you go. Resolutions. So Sandra said, you'd like to know the system for tracking resolutions. Yeah, I don't know. That it's clearly on a case-by-case basis with the supplier. I know they all have accounting departments, and my guess is some departments are better than others. Some may screw up more than others and may not be as attentive to getting you the money you're owed, and some are phenomenally great. That's the kind of stuff that not necessarily in our group environment, but if it's regarding groups, please feel free to share that in our Facebook group. We don't like to talk negative about any suppliers or any peripheral vendors or whatnot, but it's important to know. And if anybody needs a tip or help of what department to call, that we can also share that in our group boot camp Facebook group. So we have 14 minutes left, and I invite you, please, in this 14 minutes to post your questions, your scenarios, so that I can address it and others can chime in too. Let's really make the most of this time. But I want to, Danny sent in 2 questions. I'm going to read the second question first. When working with leads, and I want to hear your take on this, please weigh in. When working with leads or existing customers, so there's leads, shoppers or prospects, and existing customers, and they are concerned about COVID, what is the best way to work with them on planning a vacation? Should one say, let's look at 2021 and stay away from anything for 2020? So, Danny, and for all of you who I'm sure encountered this, my best advice, my best coaching on this is that it's not your choice, it's not your decision, it's not your mandate to tell them not to look for 2020 and to look at 2021 or vice versa. This is when you need to be an expert listener. This is when, friends, you need to be an expert qualifier. You need to ask the questions. Let them tell you how they want to proceed. Uncover and assess their fears, trepidations, anxieties, concerns. Let them reveal that. They'll tell you, I think we ought to wait until blah, blah, blah. Or I think, no, we're ready to go sooner. Now, it's your responsibility as a professional travel advisor to make them aware of, based on the time period they picked, what the prevailing situation is, like with Jamaica, with our mastermind group. If you're coming from a hotspot state, you'll need to be tested before you get on that airplane. And you got to fill out a form 72 hours prior. When you get to Jamaica, submit your form, and you're either guaranteeing we're going to test everybody, or it may be done randomly, so you have to assume You may get another Q-tip up the nose to be tested. It's your responsibility as a travel advisor. I know this is an added burden, and don't rewrite the protocol yourself. Don't rewrite it yourself. Just send them the link, send them the PDF, and say this could change in a day. So number one, let them reveal to you what their fears, concerns, anxieties are, what they want to do. Number two, full disclosure of what the protocols are currently if they choose to travel now or in 2021, because some suppliers have already published future protocols and some have not because they don't know what it's going to look like. Number three, Danny and everybody, I've got to believe this happens to you, if they say to you, what do you think? Should we go? Should we stay? Should we stick it? Should we kick it? What are your thoughts? And you're the expert. They have every right to ask you that question. Therefore, you need to be prepared to answer intelligently. And what I would say is, if you clearly, friends, really feel professionally that they should not, maybe it's based on the age of the group, maybe it's based on the city they're coming from, maybe it's based on the island they're going to, based on your professional assessment. If you really feel they should wait, then you need to be honest, right? And tell them, in my professional opinion, I would wait. Perhaps we can look at such and such, and so you need to. In your professional opinion, if you feel that you would go personally, then you can say you would. However, you want to avoid people saying, you said it was okay to go, and now it's a mess, it's a disaster. So these are tricky times. Again, you want to back up everything in writing. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Everyone is tuned in right now that you don't already know about the risks in saying too little or saying too much. That's why you want to back it up in writing. And ultimately let the client decide, when they should go or not go. And what I would suggest is, if your heart and your head isn't set on going or not going, that it really is a choice, it's an individual choice, then why don't you lay out the pros and cons? Because when Mike and I had to analyze all the feedback and the prevailing conditions and the location and the changes, the constant changes with the airline schedules, we weighed everything. We looked at the pros and cons. We made a list of pros and cons, and you can do the same. You can prepare it for them, or you could do it with them together. So they sort of have a stake in they're paying for it. They're the stakeholder. You're not, you're the expert. Of course, you have a stake in it, in that, a financial gain, but there's a risk to every booking, right? Every booking has a risk. The risk is slightly higher these days, naturally. So I would ultimately do a list of pros and cons, working with them, have your facts straight, your information straight. So Danny, I hope that helped. Now, before I check the boards again, I want to ask question one. How would you deal with trying to build a group for 2021 in today's climate? How would you deal with trying to build a group? So I would do all the things I've been saying all this time, which is to stay very engaged, highly engaged, and continuously and consistently ask the question, is there anything I can keep an eye on for you for a group and again, if it's 2021, if you know that, then for 2021, are there any time periods? Because of course, most suppliers, I think, are taking bookings for 2021, right? And you need to move gingerly through this, okay? It goes with, in any sales process, if you're too forceful, if you're too assumptive, then it could scare them away, back away. But I would be, I think the success key is to be less of a salesperson and more of an expert, right? less of a salesperson, be slower to ask for the business, and more as a provider of information, an expert. I think you really need to pivot to being the source, an influencer, highly knowledgeable, on top of the situation, very much caring, and you know, I started off reading that quote that Karen received from the women's club who invited her to speak. As you can imagine, we're all fantasizing about taking a wonderful vacation, getting away. Understand that there is that pent up demand. I hate to keep using that cliche, but it's true. And you just need to be rock solid, stay in control, be highly knowledgeable, and be supportive. And if somebody says something that you disagree with, if they say, "Oh, it's 100% safe to travel in August," say, "All right, let's get you going." If they say, "I'm not traveling till 2022," you say, "All right, I respect your words. I respect your decision. Let's get planning. Let's start the planning process now." Do you want to start the planning process now? That's what I would do, Danny. I hope that helped. Let me check the boards. 5 minutes left. Sandra says, where exactly are your forms on the site? So, Sandra, in Group Bootcamp, they're on some of the pages, like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. But what I need to do is consolidate that. So I'm gonna, as soon as we're done, I'm gonna make a note to consolidate it, so all of the links are in one place, because I've emailed them out a bunch of times. They've been in our Facebook group a bunch of times, but obviously they get buried. So I need to consolidate all the forum links in one key area, and I'm committing to you that I will do that, Sandra. Hans said, don't forget your handout. Hans, you're the man. Thank you, because I forgot, totally forgot. Listen, friends, I have included the handout here for you. This is for my bootcamp members to get a handout, sort of a checklist, a cheat sheet, if you will. So if you didn't take notes, that's okay. Use the handout, which is a good summary of everything we talked about, the 11 to 20, how to protect your assets, and also 1 through 10, which we did a couple of weeks ago. Hans, I appreciate you reminding me, because I would have forgotten. Karen said, ultimately, it's the client's decision. We can only give them information, not advice in this case. I agree. Certainly, we are influencers, and things are so sensitive now, because we're talking about health and safety and welfare of people, which we always do, but of course this is an extremely heightened sense that the key word is information, Karen. Thank you for highlighting that. Kay said, if you arrive in Jamaica now and you test positive, where do you go for quarantine? I know at my expense, but where do they allow me to stay for 14 days? Kay, I don't even have an answer to that. Mike and I didn't even dive that deep into it. It was just the concept of staying for 14 days. And I will tell you this much, and this is the resort we're using, Moon Palace, Jamaica. They have a policy there that it says if you need to extend your stay beyond your normal booking, if your flights were canceled, it doesn't say the word quarantine, but if you need to extend your stay for an unforeseen circumstance, they list the fee schedule. And it ain't cheap. Now, this is Moon Palace, Jamaica. It's all-inclusive. It's an upscale luxury resort. But every supplier is gonna, if you want to stay there, or I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Kay. If the government has made deals with hotels so you can stay local, and it's sort of like a quarantine type hotel. Great question. All the islands must have something in place to address that. Danny said, fantastic. Thank you, Stuart. You're very, very welcome. Sandra said, thank you. You're very welcome too. All right. We are down to 1 minute, 60 seconds, actually 57 for Don't Leave Yet, class not dismissed. Any of your parting comments, questions, thoughts? Our next Power Hour has been published, and it is going to happen on, hold on, I'll give you a chance to type in your stuff there, the 21st of July, same time. It's going to be on a Tuesday. All right, I know I switch off back and forth, and most importantly, I am so grateful that you're here. I do hope you're healthy and well, and Kay said, enjoyed all the items you covered today. Oh, you bet, it's my pleasure. All right, this is a final call for comments before I dismiss you. I see the numbers. Everybody stay put. I'll tell you when class dismissed. That's it. We're good. We're golden. All right, here's the countdown. 10-second countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye, everybody.